Well, here we all are gathered for our Hitmas. Maybe we have some new faces, but we'll go round the room. So first up, Ariel, where are you? What are you wearing?
I am in Los Angeles, and I'm wearing the small version of the Gorilla Fastback, known
Oh,
as
very
the
nice.
Aurelia.
Very nice. Leslie, where are
39
you?
millimeters.
39? That doesn't count. It's not a real watch. Leslie, where are you? What are you wearing?
I am in Dublin, Ireland, and I'm wearing a University of Geneva Polo Rider. Another thing people don't like on this podcast, which is vintage watches.
No, we're not against vintage watches. Are we against vintage? Hands up, anyone who's against vintage watches?
A little bit.
Yeah, see?
Oh, yeah. Turns out I'm wrong. We are against vintage watches. That is, in fact, the group policy. Ripley, where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm wearing the Traska Venture GMT.
Very nice. Simon, welcome to Hitmas Maybe. Where are you and what are you wearing?
So I'm in Wales in the UK, and today I'm wearing my Tudor Black Bay ceramic.
Very good.
Nice.
Will, in your castle somewhere, where are you? What are you wearing?
In my evil castle somewhere in the mountains.
Yeah.
In Kent in England, and I'm wearing Casio G-Shocks, the DW5600, which is my current favorite watch.
Good. Will's just trying to be one of the people while he's in his big castle by wearing a G-Shock. Kevin, welcome to the show. Where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm also in Kent, and I'm wearing a celebration dial, but not by Rolex. It's the Fears one which came out just before Christmas. It's the Friends and Family edition.
Very nice.
So it's got very nice. Very
Good.
nice
Bought
indeed.
it yourself, or was it bought for you by a friend or family?
It wasn't bought because I'm such
freebie.
good friends with Nicholas. Yeah, he's
Okay,
the
that's
Friends
all
and
right.
Family ones basically gave them away for free.
Ah, right. Okay, I see. Good stuff. David, where are you and what are you wearing?
I'm in Budapest and I'm not wearing a watch, but next week I
Excellent.
might, since I'm home.
Keeping it going. Keep it going. I, of
Strong
course,
policy.
in Scotland wearing a Panerai. But you knew that already. Right. Let's play a little bit of Hit Miss Maybe. And let me share the screen. And first up this week is going to be a little number from Cartier, the Cartier Pasha Chronograph 41 blue-green dial watch. So this is a 41mm, 12mm thick dive-ish watch, 100 meter water resistant. It's got a date at 4:30, which we all love. Obviously, it's automatic 4 hertz, 40 hours power reserve, and it is £10,400. But is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe for all of us gathered here today? So on the count of 3, hit, miss, or maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4 hits and 1, 2, 3 maybes and 1 miss. Okay, Ariel, you voted hit. Why is it hit?
Well, I love the fact that it's a conservative Cartier, but super not conservative in the design. So you can sort of get away with wearing it anywhere you would, just a normal dress watch, but it has a little bit of extra weirdness to it. It's got the sporty elements. It's got the whole like vintage dive watch thing. It doesn't really need to have a lot of those things. It's totally about the design. The color's kind of compelling. It's a little bit more legible sort of in the silver dial, but this green, this sort of blue-green color I think is interesting. I tried to identify it with a particular color from Beetlejuice, and I got screenshots and all that. No one even commented on that. That's fine, but amusing. I just find this fun. And the funny thing is that, it was like $11,000 or something like that. Oddly, doesn't feel expensive compared to what similar watches cost right now.
Yes, we have just been talking on the show about the new Speedmaster at 14.5 grand versus this. I'm buying this, but what are you doing, Leslie?
That Speedmaster's too expensive. I was all excited for that Speedmaster when it came out, but then I'm not paying that much. This is gorgeous. And look at that color, and it matches the dial seems to match the cabochon as well. Am I right on that? I mean,
Yeah.
It looks. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was chunky, but that's actually 12 millimeters, which again is fantastic. There's no Omegas at 12 millimeters; they're all 15 and more. I really like it. It's a little clunky, maybe, but I think I'd definitely wear this. And I've always had a soft spot for Montblanc. I think they're still under the radar a little bit.
Good stuff. Ripley, how did you vote?
It's a maybe. I like it more than I don't, but it's definitely a maybe for me. I'm not a big Pasha guy. I like the idea of it more than I like it for myself, but I I prefer the three-handed ones to the chronograph. I just kind of wish they do something better with the date window on the chronographs. It's a little bit chunky. I don't know if this is the Pasha I would take. I do like the color. I do like that the dial matches the cabochons. And like Ariel said, it does seem like a decent deal considering that it's a chronograph from Cartier. And we live in a world where brands are doing the $15,000 chronograph all day long.
Yeah.
So the fact that this comes in about 10 and change feels fair.
Yeah.
Ripley's the grill version for you. Is that your Pasha?
Oh, yes, and preferably with all the diamonds. I want myself
Yeah.
to have a grill, and I want my watch to have a grill. I want to go full
You gotta match.
Atlanta rap
Yeah.
video. Yes.
Full grill. What's the superhero character? Which is it Bane? Thane? Was it Bane that had the mask over his face?
Yeah,
He's
Bane.
he's the COVID edition, right?
COVID
He's got the whole.
Simon, you gave it a miss, I think.
Yeah. This is probably going to be a really unpopular decision, I guess, but I don't know. This just doesn't appeal to me, and I think it's on a visual level. I think that the design reminds me very much of some of the vintage watches from the sort of, say vintage, but kind of late 70s, early 80s. But there's lots of elements for me that visually just don't work together on this watch. They don't hold together. And I think some of those designs for me should have probably stayed there. And this just doesn't feel like it's really evolved. So no, for me, it's a miss, I'm afraid. Combined with the price, well, I certainly won't be buying one.
Fair enough. Okay. And next up, Will, have you changed your mind since you voted?
Well, Ripley's had some very convincing arguments.
How did you vote, and what have you changed it to?
No, I voted maybe because obviously I'm going to stay on the fence on this one. I like things like the color, and I like Pasha, but the reason why I said maybe and not a hit is that I think it's a piece of jewelry more than necessarily a dive watch, and I'm a real stickler for having things to stay. If it's a diver, it has to look like a big chunky diver, no matter how much money you're paying for it. And if it's like a Pasha or like a Ballon Bleu or something like that, I prefer it to be more elegant. And it is elegant, but I think it's just trying to be something that it probably shouldn't be, which sounds super harsh. But really good price point. Really good price point. Good color. It's not for me, but I can see it appealing to a definite audience, and I think it will probably end up being a hit for Cartier.
Kevin,
they need all the help they can get, obviously. Poor Cartier.
True, poor Cartier. Kevin, are you part of the audience that would have said this was a hit?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, the color for a start is just stunning. I love it. The design, yes, you do have to get used to it, but look at those pushers. I mean, who doesn't like bulbous pushers? It's certainly unique in the watch world, and that's very distinctive. And I love.
We get a quote of that. I like that soundbite.
Oh yeah, bulbous.
I think you can have surgery for that, can't you?
Who doesn't like bulbous pushers? I agree.
But, I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, I don't have a Cartier, but this is one which I would definitely consider. Absolutely.
If you say nice things about them, maybe they'll give you a free one eventually, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. But yeah, hit all day long.
Good stuff. David, how did you vote?
I voted a maybe. Conceptually, I like it, as Ariel described, I think for those reasons, but as Leslie said, it's a bit clunky. I think it's just not a complete homework in a sense. It's like proportionally, it's just not as nice to look at. It's just, I like details and I like the concept, but overall, it's just not a watch that, to my eyes, is nice to look at.
Good stuff.
It's not a cohesive design. I think that's where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I voted a hit.
But it looks great at dinner.
Oh my goodness, does it look great
You
at
could
dinner?
probably eat your dinner off it.
Yeah.
You could use your bulbous pushers for something at dinner, I'm quite sure.
It's happened before.
I said it was a hit because it is a hit, so just deal with it, guys. It's a great watch. Yeah. And the problem with the price is, like, we're sitting there 10 grand for this watch going, this is really great value. 5 years ago, this watch would still have been 10 grand because Cartier just seemed to keep basically the same prices And maybe 10 years ago, we go, that's far too expensive. But now that we're in the land of the 15 grand Speedmaster and, the generally 13 grand chronograph, a watch from Cartier seems like a good deal, which is
Yeah, I
quite
think you're right. I've
ridiculous,
just changed my
when you
mind,
think
Rick.
about it. Just change your mind. No, there's only room for one flip-flopper in this show, and that's Will. Will, stake your place. Stake your
How
ground.
dare you?
Good. Good stuff. Right, next up we have from Montblanc. Let me share the screen. We have from Montblanc the okay, here's a mouthful. The Montblanc 1858 Geosphere Chronograph Zero Oxygen, the 8000 limited edition watch. Right, well, once you've had a chance to relax and think about what it's called, you can get your signage ready to give a vote on this. So is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4 maybes. So no misses. It's all hits and maybes. So let's start off. My screen has reorganized itself just to confuse me. So first up this time is Leslie.
Yeah.
What did you vote and why?
Anyone notice the deliberate error there I made a minute ago when I mentioned Montblanc?
We all
Can we
noticed
cut
it.
that
We
out?
just chose not to embarrass you with
I
it.
was, yeah.
You were already dreaming of this watch.
I was. I really like this. Really like this. I have a soft spot for both Cartier and Montblanc. Yeah, I love the color. I think it's a good size. I think I love all the little details. The fact that it the techie stuff that they put into it, and I think it just looks fab. And again, that blue color is really subtle, and the dial looks good. Maybe they could have colored in the date window, but no, really like this.
Good stuff. Ripley.
It's a maybe. Oh, so it's a gorgeous watch. I like the whole zero oxygen concept. It's cool that they're doing their own kind of sports watch thing. It's not the same typical kind of mountaineering watch or whatever. It's all in all, it's a good looking watch, but it is absolutely massive for anything sports related. Look how tall it is. I mean, it is so tall. It's competing with some Arab building in the Emirates for height. It's absolutely
It is 17
massive.
mil tall, yes.
17 mil tall, that's a lug width. That is not the thickness of a watch.
It's 44 mil wide, so as Panerai wearers, we're okay with this.
So, I mean, as a sports watch, this is not what I'd want on my wrist if I'm doing anything remotely sports related, but it's also gorgeous. I like the concept behind it. So it's a firm maybe.
Good. A firm maybe on this. It's a 100mm Solita base with a Montblanc kind of module on it that gives it all its fancy stuff. Simon, how did you vote and why?
I voted a maybe on this, and I've got so many reasons to hate this watch. It's like, it can't, reading all about it, I was like thinking, yeah, don't like that, yeah, don't like that, yeah. But there's still something about it. So the name for a start, right? It's just the longest, I think, most unnecessary name they've given it. I think I don't know how they could have made it any longer. So don't like the name. The design, I think,
Pro to the end of it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, why not? Let's do that as well. Pro Explorer. The design is really fussy. They've got so many things going on with it. If they removed a few elements, I think it could improve it massively. They've just done everything, thrown everything at it. And then you've got this whole zero oxygen thing. Yeah, I kind of like the concept. It feels like a great marketing concept, but actually has no real purpose or benefit. I mean, when have any of us worried about our watches foggy up on the inside or
jumping out of a plane, sir?
You've done that, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
pushing
Regularly.
someone out of a plane.
A few times, not regularly, but there are gentlemen that do.
Well, yeah, but if I'm going to jump out of a plane, I'm going to put a G-Shock on. There's no way that I'm going to put an expensive watch on my wrist. And so I've got all these reasons to hate it, and yet there's just something about it that I can't put my finger on that I think, I quite like it.
Yeah.
So it's not a hit. It's definitely a maybe.
Will, changed your mind yet?
No. I said hit, and I'm staying with hit. I love this all day long. This is, I know, look at that decision. It's great. I love the design. I love all of the quirky features. Normally, I'm a little bit cynical about kind of quirky features for the sake of it, but the design, the case back, even the zero oxygen part of it, obviously making it a slight nightmare if you really want to have it serviced properly. But I really like it. I would be very excited to put this on every morning and wear it. And of course, it's probably massively impractical, and it will probably lead to your downfall if you're trying to climb a mountain or something like that, as it gets snagged in something and then you plummet to your death. But at least it wouldn't fog up, I suppose, on the way down. So
You'd be able to see exactly your time of death. You'd be able to observe.
At least if you, if you found one of those crevasses, the watch would just snag, wouldn't it? And it would save you.
Yes,
so maybe
it
that's
could
the
save you,
practical usage.
The Montblanc Ice Pick watch. Kevin, this appears to be the watch equivalent of filling your car tires with nitrogen. Is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe for you? Kevin has frozen.
I've actually put. No, I'm back
No, he's
now.
back.
I'm back
He's
now.
back. I thought he
I'm
was
back now.
demonstrating the usefulness of this watch in freezing conditions.
Yes. I mean, I actually put this as a maybe, but now I'm going back to a miss.
I'm sorry. There's a whole,
sorry,
there's
Will,
a
I'm
whole
taking
thing
on
there
here.
can be
Can
only
Eng-
one flip-flop.
I've got a whole row of English people here not able to make up their minds. What is it, guys? Come on.
Oh, God. Well, it could be worse. It could be worse. It could be like Brexit, for instance. 'cause
Exactly.
we could
So
all
this
go
is
along that
50,
route.
48, 52. You're living in a world of
Yeah.
compromise. So tell us why it's a what?
Oh, it's now. Well, basically, I originally looked at 1850 green and the blue are fantastic, but this is just, I think, it's too thick for a start. I mean, why on earth is it? How thick is it? 17 mil.
Yeah.
I mean, God's sake, you can't wear that thing. You cannot wear it. And I've obviously got the compass bezel as opposed to a normal chronograph for whatever reason. And can you imagine going to a dinner party? I know you do, Ariel, quite a lot, wearing this and say, oh, that's a very nice watch. What is it? Oh, it's buy that watch. Oh, because it's got zero oxygen in it. I mean, they're going to fall asleep. Come on. It's just.
Ariel, are you desperate to bore someone with this watch?
It reminds me of that phrase. What is it? They sucked all the oxygen out of the room.
And it's just. Yeah. So sorry, it's now definitely.
No, yeah, I have to accept your. This is like a game show.
Sorry, Montblanc.
I have to accept your first answer. There's no mind changing, unless you're Will. We accept that you change the mind. It's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah, he has struggles. Ariel, how did you vote in this?
I said maybe, and I'm sticking to it. What I think people need to know is that this watch was a part of a capsule collection of 4 different watches. This is the only limited edition. And the strange thing is that all Montblanc did is just build on all the watches to get to this one. So there's a 3-hand zero oxygen, which is probably the most practical. There's a chronograph version. There's a Geosphere version. And then there's the chronograph Geosphere version. And that's why it's so thick, because they literally just stack these modules on top of one another to get there. Mm-hmm. So you have like the most expensive version because they thought like it would be cool if we all put it together. But you're right. Like, you look at the bezel, you're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense with this and with that. So for me, the best version is just the Geosphere version. It's still got that titanium case. It's still very well made. I think it has an even cooler case back that uses the same laser etching technology. It's just got the Geosphere complication, which makes sense. And it's not a limited edition. It costs a lot less. Or if you really like the chronograph, there's just a chronograph. So I agree that overall this concept is cool. I think that the zero oxygen thing, just sort of as a watch nerd, you can sort of understand it. And we like it for the same reason we like a helium release valve or something like that. But this version was like, I think a little bit too much. And we all sort of agreed like, it's a bit expensive. It's a bit thick. But there's 3 other non-limited ones that like are way more practical.
I do love the fact that this is the 8,000 limited edition watch, of which is a limited edition of 290. So
why is called 8,000? There's no one mountain that's 8,000. This is inspired by the 14 mountains above 8,000. It's like practicality meets like French poetry. It doesn't make any sense.
David, how did you vote?
I voted ahead just because I want to see more of this sort of exercise. I quite like the dial, the execution. It's a remarkably complex dial. Case is quite nice as well. Yes, it's too thick. I wouldn't spend my 10 grand on this. Sorry, I said, the cheaper versions are much nicer. And if you're into this zero oxygen thing, which again is a cool exercise. I remember when Cartier did the ID2 and they had that watch with vacuum in it, and it boosted the power reserve and had to potentially improve the accuracy and all sorts of stuff. I like these exercises, so that's why I'm saying that yes, Montblanc, keep this up. I mean, I'm not suggesting 17 millimeters is acceptable, because it is not. But overall, as a concept, and outside of the thickness, the execution is up there too.
I want to know, how do you know it's got no oxygen in it? Like, just because they've told you we've extracted all the
It's
oxygen
that
from
luxury
this.
promise.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a
as soon as you
trick.
open it, you can't. You can't prove it. So
there
You
goes the
shrink
oxygen.
yourself, you go inside, and then you die. That's how you do.
Well,
You can get some very expensive machinery to test it yourself.
Have they elaborated how oxygen doesn't get in the case from fuddling with the pushers and the crown?
Gaskets.
Well, yeah, but I mean
Blue
gaskets.
gaskets.
Air is less dense than water. You can't go underwater and start messing with your crown and pushers without experiencing some water ingress. So is it not too much to believe you'd get oxygen ingress by futzing with your pushers or setting your time or winding your watch?
This is why they want to see you every 5 years for a service.
Local watchmaker and get it serviced. You have to send it back, which
Well,
is
no, no,
just
you
ludicrous.
Well, I
If
actually
there's
maybe
oxygen
it's
in it, you lose the warranty.
where is that a cause to bring it back? You just bring it back and say, "There's oxygen in my watch."
There's
You need to
far
take
too
it
much
back
air
for
in this watch.
warranty.
How dare you? Get it out! Get it out!
There you go. There's
mentioned the writing-
that's an experiment I would like to try, is taking it back to the watch. I need to make a claim in the warranty. There's too much oxygen in this watch, and see how everybody goes about proving it one way or t'other. I gave this a hit because I just love the Geosphere. I don't care who thinks it's just a cool watch. So
Can we mention the
there you
writing
go.
in the back? It says, if you look at the writing in the back, it says, "Don't be afraid to dreaming." I'm sorry, that offends me. That's written so badly written.
Yeah.
Don't
Again,
be
that's more
afraid of
marketing
dreaming.
spiel. It's just
So the back of the watch
It
says,
says, "Don't be afraid." See on the left.
Yeah.
don't be afraid of dreaming. Yeah.
Don't be
I
afraid to
mean,
dream. Okay, come on. It's like,
I like how it's a
Yeah.
different
Translation.
font, even like it was an afterthought. Like there's a little bit
Oh,
more
I'm
room
sure
here.
it is.
Let's also put giving up is not an option. I like how
Exactly.
you're about to give up. You're like, oh, I
It's-
didn't realize I wasn't allowed to do that.
I've turned my watch around and now I am inspired. I will not give up.
But look at the little Montblanc star that's on the easy release on the strap. That's a good detail. Does that make up for it? Sort of? Not really.
Okay. The back of this watch looks like someone's hanging out their washing. You know?
Oh, you mean the
bottom.
clothing line?
It's like
isn't
the clotheslines at the
I'm pretty sure
bottom.
that's what that is. No matter where you are in the world, no matter how cold it is, you can still dry your clothing this way. That's
Don't give up on your laundry ever.
Ever. Your laundry
Always
must
be
done.
in fresh underwear.
It's well, I was going to say it is.
They
the
should write that
Montblanc
on the back.
Exactly.
Always
And-
bring fresh underwear
and
or
always have
a
clean
clothesline.
pants on.
Always bring a clothesline. What if it had a tiny clothesline you could unravel from the case in the bezel?
I think it should come in with a free clothes peg, like in a clothes peg box. with some
Clothesline
free,
bezel.
wee clothesline. One of those paracord clotheslines that you would use
Yeah.
camping, just for the.
I think
full-
Leslie
full
makes a really
effect.
interesting point about the phrasing, doesn't it? Because it almost reads like one of those Chinese copy watches or something, where they kind of have just they've said the right words quite, but in the wrong order or something like that. Are you sure this is a genuine watch, Rick? You.
Yes,
This is a genuine watch that someone who did
AI
not
created.
speak English originally designed. Yes.
Yes, good stuff. Right.
Change my mind if it did have bulbous pushers, but those ones, nah.
They're so flat, not
They're
bulbous
exactly
enough.
very flat. No, not for
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Right. Well, last week, you can now. So, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're now going to miss the next couple of bits. So you need to find the YouTube channel to hear what the guys actually think about the Speedmaster that was provisionally voted on without seeing it blind last week, and a historical review of the Cartier Crash. Okay, gentlemen, let's do a quick hit miss. Maybe you've seen what Omega actually released last week. It got a 66% vote. The question is, has that effectively improved or got worse now that you've actually seen what Omega produced? So on the count of three, a hit, a miss, or a maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh,
Maybe.
Are we? Oh, come on, Simon's changing his mind as we speak. Come on, Simon. Oh, we have an almost universal miss, except for one holdout, which is David. So, Ripley, now is your chance to try and convince David. But let's start at the top very quickly. Leslie, a miss.
Yeah, the price. I'm just not paying that much money. They can
Yeah.
fuck off, you know. That's not a curse word, by the way. That is
It's not. It's Irish. It's Irish
yes,
swearing. It doesn't count.
Exactly.
That's fine.
No, just too much.
Yeah, too much money. I think that's where I am. You're not paying 14 grand for a Speedmaster. I don't care what it is, unless it's made of gold, and even then it'll be too expensive. Ripley.
It's objectively awesome. Love the little rocket hand. It's just not different enough from the original version. Yeah, it's a better movement, whatever, but like I thought they could have just done a little bit more. You know, if you had the other one and someone handed you this one, you're looking at a little rocket seconds hand, and that's about it. I wish they just pushed the envelope a little bit more in terms of a design standpoint, and it's just too expensive for what it is. So, I love Omega. I thought the original one was really cool. In a vacuum, this is a cool watch, but when you look at the other one, look at what they charge for that, and then look at this one, it just doesn't add up for me.
Simon?
Yeah, I very much echo those comments. So I love the original version of this watch. My eldest brother's got one. I've spent some time with it, borrowed it from him. It is phenomenal. I mean, the details on it are insane, so good. But how they can justify charging so much more for this when all they really it feels like they've done is just change that second hand for a rocket, which for me almost feels like they've made it a bit more kind of jokey as well. It ruins it for me. I would happily have the original one, but not this.
Well,
I agree with Simon entirely. Yes, it was obviously a big miss for me. I agree with Simon entirely. I'm going to be controversial and suggest that it may have been redesigned using AI with a prompt of make it more spacey and make it more lunar. And they add a rocket to it. And it feels like a bit of a novelty watch. And obviously at that price point, it's absolutely bonkers. So it was a miss for me.
What do we think about the text on this case back?
While Kevin's giving his reasons for a miss, I will bring up the case back text on the screen. Kevin?
It's just, I agree with Simon and Will. It's just too much money. It's just ridiculously priced. That rocket hand I thought it was a joke. I really did think it's a joke. I love Amiga. I've got so many Speedmasters, but I don't want them to go down this route of being the fun brand who do something silly with their watches. This one is just one step too far, too much, not different enough, and that second hand that they just do not like.
There's so many better watches designed by AI that they should make.
Like most of them.
Ariel, you also gave it a miss, and we see that it says we'll see you on the other side.
Oh gosh. I mean, look, a lot of the people here said essentially the same thing I was going to say, and it really boils down to this is a novelty item, and I don't understand what state of mind you need to be in to be like, what if the dark side of the moon ate the Speedmaster? The case is cool. We liked it, a decade ago when the first Dark Side of the Moon came out. So Omega does a beautifully finished black ceramic case. I think a lot of this is a hit. It's just this movement really needed to stay for the one collector that wanted to get it. I think of the Speedmaster Professional. This is not say professional in there. And I kind of feel like every single one of the Speedmasters should be something you feel like you could do a mission on. This is the watch you take on a mission to get nachos at 2 a.m. I don't know. It's not a serious watch, but it's at a very serious price for not very serious people, but with serious money. It's just sort of a strange thing. And I don't actually want to see these out there. If I see this, I'm not going to root, be like, yeah, I'm going to be like, oh, really? You got that for the money. There's so much more you could have got.
David, you voted maybe, so tell everybody why they're almost wrong.
It's a maybe because barring the price, I think it's a decent fun watch. I like it when it was launched. I don't understand the pricing idea behind this, apart from playing with the idea of owning the first one. And you buy a watch and then you realize that MSRP just went up basically 50%. So what does that do to your watch? I mean, it's sure, it's not very enticing to jump on this train now when it's become more expensive. But if this is to continue and 5 years from now it will get even more expensive and then yet more expensive, then technically it would just be dragged on. It keeps dragging on with resale, and so that's just a thought to entertain. We never expect these price hikes to happen, and yet they always do. So yeah, pricing is crazy, execution is nice. So
Good
I guess
stuff.
it's a maybe.
Well, that does put this watch at the absolute bottom of the pile of everything we've played YouTube Hit Miss Maybe on so far. Currently, the scores on the AD doors, and I've used the film Whiplash because it's just the best film ever in order to give our gradings. So this is right bottom, which puts it in the not my tempo class. Which is kind of 0 to 25%. The next class up from that is the not quite my tempo class. Then it is the 51 to 75%, which is good job. And currently, we only have one watch in the good job. The top of the good job is a 39.5 mil Planet Ocean Omega. So Omega is both top and bottom. And anyone that scores more than 76% gets a Whiplash vote. So that is the scoring that we are using at the moment to create our table, which we will find out about more in subsequent weeks. But we're going to do our final watch, which is an historical look at the Cartier Pasha. Now, there's not a lot on this, but we shall go to Cartier's current, this is Sotheby's, which has an image of a Cartier, so everybody knows what we're talking about. A Cartier Crash, and you've got to picture yourself back in 1967. Omega have just released the DeVille, so that's what's considered the new kid on the block, is the Omega DeVille, and Cartier announced this watch, the Cartier Crash. So put yourself in 1967, easier for some of us, Will, obviously, than for others.
The good old days.
The good old days. So put yourself in that and give us a hit, a miss, or a maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, okay. We have our first Whiplash, 100% hit. I actually changed my mind at the last minute. I've ruined it. So I've done a Will. Leslie,
what are you going to go with, Rick?
I was going to go with a maybe, because I think I would still have looked around all the other watches that were around, that were round watches, and gone, oh, this is still a bit scary. But maybe if I was in the position I am now, which is I'm a watch geek, then maybe this would have appealed to my watch geekness of being just completely different. Whereas everything you were seeing was either round or square, and this was completely, different from all that, and that would have made me go, yeah, this is really cool. So I suspect most of us are there. But Leslie, tell us.
I'm art is a passion of mine. I would have loved this. I would have seen Dali all over it. I would have seen totally as part of that whole 60s vibe. I would have been with this, absolutely. It just looks fantastic. And it would be really distinctive. I'd still love one. I just wish they weren't so goddamn expensive.
Ripley?
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It doesn't look like anything else. It just looks awesome. It's a dolly sculpture on the wrist. The only thing I don't like about the Crash is just how much hype it's gotten in recent years. It's now this thing that's just kind of on the way towards like the Nautilus or the Royal Oak, where there's a bunch of people who have interest in it that just like it because some celebrity has it or whatever. But in a vacuum, outside of that, or way back in the day for when it was created, oh yeah, absolutely. Awesome watch.
Simon?
Yeah, I just think this is cool. I mean, what more can you say? And really cool for the era, if you think about it. I mean, there was just nothing like this, was there? And I was trying to think of what you'd compare it to in from a modern perspective. And is it like it's not really an MB&F, is it? Because they're sort of more about the technical mastery. It's almost like the studio underdog of its day, isn't it? Really, where they've just taken a conventional design and just done something really wacky with it. So yeah, love it, really cool.
Good stuff. Will?
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's elegant, and it's incredibly unique. Inspired, as I understand it, by a little bit of death and destruction, but there's always a fine line between horror and beauty, and this is just beautiful and a classic all day long.
Good stuff. Kevin?
Oh, it's 100% So beautiful, so elegant. I mean, I'm just repeating what everyone else has said. It's just so different. I mean, at the time, yeah, I would have been all over this.
Kevin has
I'm
frozen
looking to
again.
auction.
Nope.
Oh, have I? Oh, sorry.
You're frozen. That's fine.
So yeah, obviously, I'm just repeating what everybody else has said. It's a hit. Beautiful design.
Good stuff. Ariel?
It's just beautiful.
I want to go into a little bit of the backstory that Will alluded to. I actually don't know if it's true. I think I may have even heard it from Cartier. And this is sort of the legend. In the 1960s, a Cartier executive in London died in a car crash, which was the name car crash. And they recovered his Cartier watch. And they told me the model, it was a round watch. And the car crash was quite violent because at the time there wasn't a lot of safety stuff and a whole lot of fuel tank explosions going on. So the car crashed and erupted into flames, and the watch melted and was recovered. And someone, they handed this watch back to Cartier in this melted condition, and someone said, that's actually not too bad as a testament to this executive. Let's make this. Let's make a few of them, and it ended up being a hit. So I have no idea if that's true or not, or if that's the exact facts. But it is the crash, and you can clearly see that the design came from what was a round case that is melted. And at the time, with surrealist art, you can see how this would have been a perfect thing to do. I remember more than a decade ago at SIHH, for example, Cartier coming out with a few new versions of this. There were skeletonized ones and all different stuff like that. And we didn't really know about it. And it's a very small watch by a lot of men's watch standards. And, the entire aBlogtoWatch team, we agree this was really cool, but no one was talking about this. No one knew it. It was totally undersized for the taste at the time. It hadn't been since the early 1990s, actually. And then it just sort of became a quirky thing once people learned about it a little bit. And I was like, well, yeah, it was only a matter of time. But this was not a hit for a very, very long time. And I don't think if this would have been popular at auction and on some celebrity wrists, I know there's one being sold right now that was owned by Elton John. I don't know that consumers would have been, or even collectors would have been as into it, because it takes really sort of an artistic eye to understand the proportions and realize that even though it is a destructed thing, there's a kind of an odd beauty behind it. So again, I don't totally know if that story's true, but that's what they told me. And it's plausible.
Interesting that it was named after the event rather than the person that suffered in the crash. If it was, let's do this in memory of him and call it the crash, as opposed to who the person actually was. David, finally to you.
Yeah, definitely a hit. I'm happy that Ariel mentioned the story. I was just trying to wind back time, and I remember I was writing about one version or another of the crash, and I tried to find the story, and I couldn't. But I definitely remember that it was part of Cartier's presentation, maybe a decade ago or so. So they actually included it in PDFs and stuff like that.
Yeah, they told it to us.
Yeah, and then that sort of went away because it's a kind of a grim story or backstory for a product. But again, it's what it is, and I'm kind of ashamed that Cartier does not own up to it anymore, because it's a unique thing in the world of watches. And it's a beautiful, beautiful watch, and a quirky, cool dress watch as well. So if you're bored with the flat, round watches, you could just get a Crash and entertain yourself and maybe tell the story as well.
Good. Complete lack of bulbousness about it. All right, Kevin.
The whole thing is a bulb.
The whole thing is bulbous. Excellent. Well, that is our show for this week. We end on a global hit that is the Cartier Crash, our most successfully voted on watch so far. Join us on the podcast and on the YouTube channel later in the week. But other than that, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from all of them. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.